Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Esquire Coaching Radio, where we help attorneys achieve unparalleled personal and professional success. And now here's your host, Ann Jenrat Thomas.
Welcome everyone to the Esquire Coaching Radio Show. It's such a pleasure to be here with all of you today. As you know, Esquire Coaching is a national coaching and consulting firm that's dedicated to helping lawyers achieve extraordinary whole life success. To that end, we discuss the full range of topics from building business to getting a job to work-life balance and everything in between. Today, we have a very special guest who's going to talk to us about how your client is already in the room, networking secrets that even an introvert can master. So research shows that at least 50% of U.S. adults identify themselves as introverted. And according to an article published by Psychology Today, 50% of U.S. adults say that they are shy. And listen, I know most of us are lawyers, and these statistics will hold true for us as well. It's not just something that is relevant to the outside population. Today, we have Richard Oseguera, who is just unbelievably amazing. Not only is he an author, he's a networking guru and an introvert icon. He brings his reverence and a sense of play to making connections. He knows that community is foundational in building business. Richard also knows the quiet strength of the introvert. His compassionate philosophy to coaching is simple. Everyone has something to offer. Everyone has the right and the power to shine. Believe it or not, and you'll see why I say this later when you hear him, Richard is a former wallflower. And now he's a multi-award-winning entrepreneur. He's the founder of several six-figure businesses, including a Chamber of Commerce in New York City. He's the author of the book, Convert Your Community to Cash, Monetize Your Connections, and a national television spokesperson on networking for business professionals. Without any further ado, welcome, Richard.
Hi. So excited to be with you. Hello.
So excited to have you here. We love this topic, especially because I don't think many people realize that many attorneys are introverted. You know, not necessarily the ones that are going into court, you know, and litigating, but a lot of transactional attorneys, a lot of folks that are in-house, you know, they are introverted and shy, and this is an essential topic for them. So let's dive right in. You describe yourself as a former shy guy and an introvert, yet you have an entire business that's focused on helping business owners develop confidence in business development, networking, and professional speaking of all things. How'd you go from being a wallflower to an expert in networking who started a Chamber of Commerce and several six-figure businesses? Hello, Richard? Oh, we are having technical difficulties. Okay. Please stand by. Okay. Hello? Hello, Richard. Are you on? We are having some serious technical difficulties here. Hello, Richard. Can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Sorry. So I apologize to all of our listeners. There were some serious technical difficulties going on here.
Oh, no. I heard everything you said, though, so I can jump right in from where you left off.
Okay, perfect. So go right ahead and tell us your story.
Yeah, so, you asked how did I go from being a wallflower and a shy person and also being introverted to becoming a networking expert. And, it's absolutely true. When I was younger, and actually up until about 10 years ago, I was seriously inhibited and self-conscious and absolutely shy. And, it kind of all goes back to when I was a kid. And do you remember that game, Dodgeball?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, that was we had to play that during recess in grade school, and it was just absolute torture for me. And the reason was because every time that we had to line up for picking teams, it was like I just really wished I could just disappear and die because it always went the same way. So there would always be the two team captains, which I was never one of those guys, and we would have to line up against this chain link fence. And I went to school in Southern California at a school called Workman Elementary in La Fuente, California. And I can totally visualize this right now. So we'd be lined up against this chain link fence, and the team captains would start calling the names, picking the people they wanted on their team. So they would say, Ann, Tony, Jerry, Susie. Everyone is getting picked. And what I would do is I would just hold on to that fence for dear life. Like, I think I wish I could just disappear. And then at some point, the name choosing stopped. And I would open my eyes, and there's Richard, left all alone on that chain link fence, like old milk. And that wasn't the worst part, though. The worst part was what happened next. And what would happen next would be a conversation between the two team captains, like, well, I don't want him. Well, we don't want him. Well, you get him. And basically, someone was going to be stuck with Richard. And the experience of that, time after time, year after year, really started to, created some negative beliefs. I started to create negative beliefs about myself as a result. And some of them were along the lines of, you suck. You don't belong. You don't belong on teams. People don't like you. Groups are scary. Things like this. And so I learned how to become very insulated and actually fearful of having to be in group situations. And it really didn't matter what sport I played because whatever I did, it was the same thing was going to happen. Except for track for some reason. I was really good at running really fast. But other than that, everything kind of went the same way. So what happened on a neurological basis is I developed some limiting beliefs and thought patterns about myself that became automatic pilot programs in my brain. And all of us have to do the same thing in different areas of our lives, with both the good things that happen and the bad. It's just that we seem to end up focusing a lot more on the negative and the limiting beliefs in our lives. So fast forward in 2000, actually in 1998, I moved to New York City, and it was my dream to be here in the city. And ironically, as I grew up and as I became an adult, I actually became a really good salesperson, but only if it was one-on-one. If I had to go into any type of group situation or speak in front of people, I just fell to pieces. I was awful. And but if I got to speak with you face-to-face, or even over the phone, but just one-on-one, I could do really well. So when I got to New York, I came with some great skills around sales. However, what I learned really fast, and New York City pricing, it takes a lot of money to live here. And my little salary of $30,000 wasn't really going to be cutting it. So I realized I had to learn how to make more money. And for me, that meant I had to learn how to speak to more people and be comfortable with it. And
so hence the groups, right? Now all of a sudden you had to probably end up facing some groups.
Absolutely, yeah. And so what happened was I started asking people who I knew, who were good networkers. I observed them and I said, well, why do you know everyone? How do you do that? How do you track these people? What is it that you're doing? And a friend of mine said, well, Richard, first you have to start meeting people, and a really great way to do that is to go to a gala, go to a fundraiser, where you'll be in a pool of like-minded people who all had paid something usually to get into that room, so they're quote-unquote a better quality of people to be talking to because they're invested in that cause, and it's much easier to make connections in that environment. And I said, well, that sounds fun. I'll do that. So I picked a group. And not only do I pick a gala, but I end up picking one of the largest. It'd be 1,000 people at this event.
Oh, my gosh, Richard. I can only imagine.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, yeah, and the tickets were $500. And this now is somewhere around, 2001 or so. $500 now is a lot of money, but back then, to me, that was like $5 million. And I figured out how to make it happen, right? And when you really want something, we always figure out how to make it happen, right? So I buy my ticket, and it's the night of the gala, and I have my best outfit on, and I go to the Sheraton Hotel on 7th Avenue in Midtown Manhattan. And as I walk into the lobby, I start to see the other people coming in to the same events, and there's men dressed up in beautiful suits, looking very confident, and very much in their element, and the women who are dressed up, in beautiful gowns, and their makeup is perfect, and again, this really strong sense of confidence. And what happened for me is all of those thoughts from my childhood about you don't belong in groups, people don't like you, no one wants you, all of that just sort of like reared its ugly head, almost like I was holding on to that chain link fence again. And with every step that I took through that lobby, it was like I was walking through molasses. Until finally, I literally just kind of broke down. I stopped in my tracks, and my thought was, I have to get out of here. I can't go up there into a room of 1,000 people. I can't handle this. This is too much. And I was very close to turning around and walking out the door, and everything really boiled down to that moment. And luckily, I had been getting training around, mindset training and positive thinking training and sales training, things like this. Luckily, some of that started coming to me. So it was like I had this dialogue. There was the good voice of like, you can do this, Richard. And there was the voice of like, get the heck out of here and go home and bite on the couch. So I made a choice. In answering the inner dialogue, I decided to go with one of the voices that I heard, which was one of my sales trainers who said, Richard, you can do anything. You can be bigger than your fears, doubts, and worries if you are willing. And in that moment, I decided, okay, I'm willing. I don't have to like it. I don't have to know how to do this, but I'm willing to be bigger than my fear. And so I kind of just held my head up high, put my shoulders back, and I walked up into that gala. And there's 1,000 people. And
wow.
All those voices started coming back again. But I dealt with it. And here's what happened. I realized that I didn't have to meet 1,000 people. I only needed to meet a couple of people. And
that is such a powerful story. And, one of the things that you mention in your book, Convert Your Community to Cash, Monetize Your Connections, you actually dedicate a whole chapter to what you're talking about, this idea of working on the mindset. Now, talk to us, Richard. How relevant is this to networking?
It's everything, especially if you struggle with making connections naturally. And, whether you're introverted or extroverted, or anything in between, which some people do fall into that category, but most people are going to be heavily one or the other, introvert, extrovert. However you are, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're good at networking. So you may be hesitant to meet people, or you may be really uninhibited, but what comes out of your mouth is a whole different story in either case. The mindset on both sides has a lot to do with creating a way of being that has you more effortlessly connect with people and also be received. And that's one of the things that I learned is that for me, in my case, given that I was dealing with inhibitions and fears and doubts about myself and about other people and how I thought they might treat me or be towards me, like just very deep-seated things that were rolling in the back of my mind, I had to learn how to retrain my brain and train it with new ways of thinking about myself and really an empowered way of being. And what's cool about the brain is this concept. It's not a concept; it's a fact. It's called neuroplasticity, and it's the brain's ability to continually grow and to take on new ways of being and take in new information, and not just by way of learning, like reading a book and learning something, but really by creating new habits, which ultimately become our thoughts in the way that we operate. So I started to get trained in that, and that's actually what I train my clients in now. How do you create a powerful mindset? But if you're struggling with networking, this is what you have to do. You have to retrain your brain so that you can be coming from a totally different place.
I love that. So, this idea of neuroplasticity, does that work even with introverts, or is that something that you feel like is really something that only applies to extroverted folks? Or what are your thoughts about it?
It's everyone. It's just the human brain. Our brains really don't differentiate between good thoughts and bad thoughts, or happy thoughts or sad thoughts. Our brain does create chemical reactions to these different kinds of thoughts. But in terms of our automatic responses, like for me, it used to be very automatic to feel inhibited when I was in a group of people, because of the things that happened when I was younger and later, those things got reinforced. So it was it was a habit, basically. You could think of it as a habit, an automatic response to put up my guard and to withdraw. And that only became a habit because it was reinforced enough over time. So if you start to create new habits in your mind about how you think and how you view the world, that can become the dominant way that you experience life or experience networking. And so it really is a matter of anyone can do this. It isn't whether you're introvert or extrovert. It's just what the brain is capable of doing.
Wow. I just got this powerful imagery of like, a glass filled with sludge, and that you're just pouring in all this water and water and water until that sludge is basically cleared out and it's all clean water. That's sort of the image I got from what you just said.
I love that. Yes. A cleanse.
So what would you say is your number one networking tool? What advice do you give to people when you talk about a number one networking tool?
Okay, I love that question. People always laugh when I say this, but I believe that your number one asset is your smile.
Huh.
And people, exactly. Huh? You didn't expect me to say that. Yeah. Here's why. There's so many things that happen non-verbally in human interactions, and when we're networking, and maybe I'll clarify this a bit. To me, networking is the art of human connection. It's really connecting. You're connecting yourself to another person. And if you think of it through that context, it kind of takes away a lot of the connotations that networking has. And often, networking, the word networking to me is not sexy. I actually don't like that word. But when you think about it, God, I'm a human being and that's a human being, and I'm here to just learn what this person is about and to see what's possible on any level between the two of us. More importantly, what I can offer that person that might be of value to them, right? And what I can learn from that person that can be of value to me. However, so that's my view of networking. So this is why smiles are so important, because most people don't smile.
That's so true. If you've ever gone to a bar association meeting, you are dead on. So you're right.
Maybe we start smiling after we've had a few cocktails or something, but I live in New York City. I take the subway quite a bit, and you know what that looks like at 8 in the morning?
Yes.
a sea of people who have upside-down smiles, right? And there's a whole thing about space. Like, you can't get too close to me, even though we're in a crowded space. There's still some rule about it goes from feet to inches to centimeters. Right? As soon as you get too close, then you get that look. And when you make eye contact with someone, you avert your eyes because you don't want them to think you're crazy or that you want something or that you're going to do something to them. We have all of these, and this is everywhere, though. It's amplified in New York City, but humans have learned how to be this way with each other, especially in public places. And the reason that smiles are so important when you're networking is because we go into networking events just like that, and we're on guard. And many people go into networking events, they're actually nervous, especially if you're on the introvert side or shy. You can show up being very nervous, and you forget to inform your face that you're actually glad to be there. And people. So,
that's good.
So smiling does a few things. One, it breaks the ice. If you have trouble with connecting with people, practice smiling. If you smile at someone, you're in a networking situation, you're very likely to get a smile back. And what you've just done is opened up the opportunity to then have a conversation.
You
smiling.
said something really important that I just want to touch upon. You really highlighted how networking is about connections, but the piece that really struck out for me is the idea of reciprocity. That it is about giving and receiving. And I don't know. I thought that was something very powerful. Now, I understand what you're saying about smiles and how that can open up that sort of reciprocity, but some folks have a difficult time, feeling genuine, or they don't want to seem creepy or out of line. So do you have any advice for people about how they can feel more comfortable smiling or giving a genuine smile without feeling uncomfortable?
Yeah, well, practice. So here's what I teach my clients. If you're not used to smiling, well, first you have to know what your smile actually looks like, and whether or not you know what a genuine smile looks like. So here's what a genuine smile is. A genuine smile will actually activate the lines around the muscles around your eyes, which we call our crow's feet. So if someone is genuinely smiling, their crow's feet will be showing, as well as lines around the mouth. And when people are fake smiling, we're actually better at fake smiling than genuinely smiling. And it takes more muscles in the face and more work to do a fake smile because you're actually holding muscles in place. So. Oh my God! Especially in this era of selfies, right? Yeah. Everybody's fake smiling. Okay. Oh, that's a good point. So you first want to look in the mirror and practice really smiling and seeing. You know that you're really smiling if you see the lines around your eyes showing up. You have to get clear on how that feels on your face. Another really cool thing that happens when you're genuinely smiling, and this is part of why laughter is such good medicine, is that it sends a message to the brain that actually emits a chemical called oxytocin, which makes your body flood with feelings of happiness and reduces stress and all kinds of other things that go on. And then it sends a response back to your face that says, keep smiling because we like this back here. And then another message goes back to the brain, make more oxytocin, and it goes back and forth like this chain reaction. So smiling actually helps you be just healthier. But that's a sidebar. So you want to practice what a real smile looks like. And here's what I teach my clients to do is it's called mirror work. You literally lock yourself in the bathroom and stand in front of the mirror and smile and see what that looks like. And some people, it can be very uncomfortable for people, and it sounds absolutely crazy, but you know who does this? Actors. The best actors in the world are trained this way as well, to do mirror work and to really get to know what you look like to yourself. So when you're out with people it becomes much easier because you're confident in where you're coming from. It becomes much easier to start to interact with other people. So practicing is really, in this case, like they say, practice makes perfect. Practice smiling and see what that does.
Wow.
You can also practice smiling when you're walking down the street and see how people react to you.
I think it's a good. I think this is a good experiment for our listeners to just try. It's something so simple, you know, and it is something that I think an introvert or a shy person can try because it doesn't require dialogue right off the bat. You know, it's something internal. Now, I want to just open up. I want to open up the lines for any listeners that want to ask Richard a question directly. Just call 347-838-8719 and press 1 to get in the queue. That's 347-838-8719 and press 1 to get in the queue. And Richard, we have only about 5 more minutes left, so I'm sorry that this is, you know, it's just going by so quickly. I know that you wanted to share a gift with our audience. What is it, and how will they benefit from it?
Absolutely. So as you mentioned, I wrote a book called Convert Your Community to Cash, Monetize Your Connections, and it is all about networking. It basically is the whole structure that I used, that I learned over many, many, many years on how to network, and I condensed it all into a book, and it made it very easy for people to take away. Took me a long time to learn. So what I'm offering everyone who's listening, anyone who would like to start to improve your networking game, is the first chapter of my book. And it touches on mindset. It also touches on money and your view of money and how that affects how you network, which is a whole different conversation. So the way that you get it is you can go to a website, and the address is Community to Cash, communitytocash.com. And you can sign up right there to get the first chapter of the book. Plus, I do weekly networking video tips, which are very short and very fun to learn from. And you'll be in the queue to get those weekly video tips as well. So it's communitytocash.com.
Oh, thank you so much. Those are such excellent gifts. And listeners, you know, just take the resource. I mean, Richard is an expert. He's someone who has, he not only teaches this, but he's lived it. He has mastered it through his own experience. Now, you know, just one final question before we go. Networking is a process, and yet so many people are terrible at it. What's your one takeaway? What do you want people to really take away from this conversation about networking?
Yeah, well, networking is a practice. It's like anything else that you get good at over time, you know, whether it's working out at the gym or doing yoga class or taking singing lessons or playing an instrument or playing whatever sport you play. It's a practice, and there are ways to do it correctly, and there are ways to really mess it up. We're never really taught this. So if you are in a position where you have any kind of business development, revenue generation mandate in your role, in your business, then it really is incumbent to take it upon yourself to practice the art of networking. And if you do practice, you will get better. And that's what I want people to get, is that everyone has the ability to connect with other human beings. It's what we want at our deepest core. We just want to be accepted and acknowledged. And that's what networking is about, accepting and acknowledging other people, starting with yourself and connecting at a deep level.
Ah, such great advice. I love it. Thank you so much, Richard. This was such a great interview.
Thank you. It was my pleasure being here.
So, listeners, let's keep this conversation going. Are you an introvert? Do you have some good tips on networking? Join us on Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn. You can find all those links on esquirecoaching.com and share your thoughts. And find Richard also and share it with him as well. Next week, we'll talk about staying the course when you decide to go solo with Susan Carter-Leibel. If you have any questions beforehand, feel free to email us at info@esquirecoaching.com. Until then, be well, everyone.